Guilt is the invisible leash that society uses to keep the restless in line. It relies on the fear of being a bad person in the eyes of others, but for the loner, those eyes have lost their authority. When you stop caring about the crowd's moral compass, their leash snaps. The first reason loners are immune is the refusal of the burden of expectation. Most people feel a heavy weight when someone says, "I thought you were better than this." They scramble to prove their worth. The loner simply shrugs. They never asked you to have expectations of them in the first place. This creates a vacuum where manipulation usually thrives. When a family member or a friend tries to use your past favors against you, they are looking for a debt of gratitude. The loner views favors as gifts, not loans. If you give with a string attached, the loner cuts the string. Then there is the immunity to the social shaming ritual. When the group tries to make you feel guilty for not participating in a trend or a movement, they are using the fear of ostracization. But you can't threaten a loner with exile from a tribe they never wanted to join. Consider the rejection of emotional labor. Manipulators often act as if their happiness is your responsibility. They sigh, they complain, and they wait for you to fix their mood. The loner recognizes this as a trap. They remain calm and detached, refusing to rent out their peace to a professional victim. The loner is immune because they have a private moral code. Most people outsource their conscience to the collective. If the group says you should feel guilty, they do. The loner only feels guilt when they violate their own internal standards, making the group's judgment irrelevant background noise. Think about the refusal of the false apology. Society demands you say sorry for things that aren't wrong, just to keep the peace. The loner refuses to lie. They won't apologize for their boundaries or their silence. This honesty makes them impossible to manage through standard social pressure. This immunity triggers a specific kind of rage in manipulators. They are used to pulling a lever and getting a reaction. When they pull the lever on a loner and nothing happens, they feel powerless. Your lack of guilt is interpreted as coldness, but it is actually just clarity. In the end, the loner is the only one who is truly free to be kind. Because they don't give out of guilt, every act of theirs is genuine. They have moved beyond the dark psychology of manipulation and into the light of total self-possession. They are untouchable. The refusal of the burden of expectation is the loner's primary shield against the world. Most people walk through life carrying a heavy backpack filled with the hopes, dreams, and judgments of everyone they've ever met. They are terrified of letting someone down because they've tied their self-worth to the approval of the audience. A manipulator knows this and uses it like a scalpel, making small cuts of disappointment to steer the person where they want them to go. But the loner has realized that expectations are a one-sided contract. If someone expects you to act a certain way, that is their internal problem, not your external obligation. When a manipulator says, "I'm so disappointed in you," the loner hears, "My plan to control you has failed." By refusing to accept the weight of other people's opinions, the loner becomes light. They move through social circles without the friction of people-pleasing. This isn't about being a rebel, it's about being autonomous. You recognize that you are the only person who has to live with your choices at the end of the night. If you subscribe to this channel, you'll learn that once you drop the need to be the good person in someone else's distorted story, you gain the power to be the protagonist of your own. The immunity to the social shaming ritual is what makes loners so dangerous to hierarchies. Hierarchies are held together by the threat of being cast out. Whether it's an office clique, a friend group, or a family unit, the message is always the same: follow the rules or you will be alone. For most people, the thought of being the odd one out is a psychological death sentence. They will violate their own values just to stay in the warm, suffocating embrace of the group. The loner, however, has already made friends with the cold. They have spent enough time in the silence to know that it isn't a void, it's a sanctuary. When the group tries to shame you for your lifestyle, your lack of ambition, or your refusal to conform, they are using a weapon that has no edge against you. You have already accepted the worst-case scenario of being alone and found it to be a kingdom. This breaks the manipulator's spirit. They realize that they have no currency that you value. You cannot be bought with belonging, and you cannot be threatened with exile. You are a sovereign nation within a world of occupied territories. The rejection of emotional labor is a critical boundary that the unbothered loner maintains with surgical precision. Manipulators often operate as emotional vampires, looking for someone to act as a container for their unresolved trauma and daily frustrations. They use guilt as a way to force you into the role of an unpaid therapist. They make their sadness your fault if you don't drop everything to listen to them. The loner recognizes this as a form of soft coercion. Instead of being pulled into the drama, the loner offers a calm, detached empathy that doesn't involve self-sacrifice. They understand that every person is the sole administrator of their own emotional state. By refusing to take on the work of fixing someone else's mood, you are forcing that person to face themselves. This is often called heartless by those who want to use you, but it is actually the highest form of respect. You are treating them like a capable adult rather than a helpless child. You refuse to be the crutch that allows them to avoid walking on their own 2 feet. A private moral code is the bedrock of the loner's immunity. Most of the guilt we feel is actually social anxiety dressed up as conscience. We feel bad not because we did something wrong, but because we fear we will be judged. The loner has dismantled this external radar. They have replaced it with a deep, internal set of principles that don't shift based on the current social weather. If a loner decides that their time is better spent in solitude than at a shallow networking event, no amount of "you're being antisocial" comments will move them. They know they haven't violated their own code of integrity. This makes them immune to the gaslighting that often accompanies guilt-based manipulation. A manipulator will try to rewrite reality, making your healthy boundaries look like selfishness. But because the loner knows exactly who they are and what they stand for, the manipulator's words have nowhere to land. They are like arrows shot at a ghost. The loner doesn't argue, they simply remain. They are the only ones who can't be shamed into a version of themselves that serves someone else's agenda. The refusal of the false apology is the final nail in the coffin of social manipulation. We live in a culture of conciliation where people apologize for everything, for being late, for having an opinion, for taking up space. These small, hollow apologies are the grease that keeps the gears of social control turning. They signal that you are manageable and aware of the hierarchy. The loner refuses to participate in this ritual of submission. They will apologize if they truly hurt someone, but they will never apologize for their existence or their boundaries. When a manipulator demands an apology as a way to win a social exchange, and the loner remains silent or says, "I have nothing to apologize for," the power dynamic is permanently altered. You have shown that you cannot be bullied into a performance of remorse. This makes people uncomfortable because it exposes the inauthenticity of everyone else's apologies. You are the one who has realized that a sorry spoken to avoid a conflict is a lie told to yourself. You would rather endure the tension of the truth than the comfort of a convenient deception. The psychology of the debt of gratitude is one of the most insidious ways that people try to control one another, and it is a trap that loners bypass entirely. In standard social circles, a favor is rarely just a favor. It is a credit that the giver expects to cash in at a later date. This creates a hidden web of obligations that keeps everyone indebted to everyone else. When a manipulator does something for you, often something you didn't even ask for, they are essentially planting a guilt seed. Months later, they will try to harvest that seed by asking you for something that violates your boundaries, using the phrase, "after everything I did for you." The loner, however, has a clean slate mentality. They view every interaction as a zero-sum event. If you do something for a loner, they see it as a voluntary expression of your will. They don't accept the implicit debt. If you try to use a past kindness as a weapon, the loner will simply say, "I didn't realize that was a transaction." This clinical detachment is infuriating to those who live by the rules of social accounting. You are breaking the law of reciprocity as it is understood by the fearful. By refusing to be bought by past favors, you maintain your strategic mobility. You are always free to say no today, regardless of what happened yesterday. You have realized that gratitude is a beautiful emotion to be felt, but indebtedness is a shackle to be avoided. You are the one who understands that your future self is not a slave to the gifts received by your past self. You are reclaiming the right to be unpredictable and autonomous in every single moment, regardless of the history you share with the person standing in front of you. One of the most profound ways loners remain immune to guilt is through the deconstruction of social labels. Most guilt-based manipulation relies on nouns: being a good friend, a loyal employee, or a supportive child. These labels come with a pre-written list of shoulds. If you don't do what a good friend should do, you are expected to feel bad. The loner has realized that these labels are fiction. They are social constructs designed to make people easier to categorize and control. The loner doesn't see themselves as a label, they see themselves as a presence. When someone tells a loner, "A good person wouldn't leave their friends hanging like this," the loner doesn't feel the sting of the failed label. Instead, they look at the motivation behind the statement. They see the attempted control rather than the moral judgment. By stripping the labels away, the loner is able to see the structure of the manipulation with total clarity. They realize that the person calling them selfish is actually the one being selfish by demanding their time. This inversion of perspective is a dark psychological superpower. It allows the loner to remain non-reactive while the manipulator is throwing every label in the book at them. You aren't defending your character because you don't care about the character they have built for you in their mind. You have realized that you are the only one who knows the context of your choices, and you don't need to translate that context for people who only want to use it against you. You are the one who has reached the state of nominal immunity, where the words people use to describe you have no more power than the wind. The immunity to emotional blackmail is perhaps the most striking trait of the dark psychology-aware loner. Emotional blackmail works on the fog principle: fear, obligation, and guilt. A manipulator will threaten to hurt themselves, end the relationship, or suffer silently unless you comply with their demands. Most people are held hostage by this because they don't want to be the cause of someone else's pain. The loner, through a deep understanding of personal agency, has realized that they are not the author of other people's reactions. If someone chooses to be miserable because you set a boundary, that misery is their internal production. The loner refuses to be the hostage in someone else's drama. They understand that compliance only feeds the blackmail, ensuring that it will happen again and again. When you stop negotiating with emotional terrorists, you regain your life. This is often viewed as cynicism, but it is actually profound sanity. You are refusing to play a game where the only way to win is to lose yourself. People fear this about you because it means you are unstoppable. You cannot be guilted into staying in a toxic environment or a dead-end relationship. You have found the exit door of the emotional maze, and you aren't afraid to walk through it, even if the manipulator is screaming at your back. You are the one who has realized that compassion without boundaries is just self-destruction, and you have decided that you are worth more than a performance of martyrdom. The silence of the unbothered is a weapon that loners use to let guilt-based manipulation self-destruct. When someone is trying to guilt-trip you, they are looking for a reaction, a defense, an explanation, or a counterattack. Any of these things gives the manipulator data to work with. If you explain why you can't help, they will debunk your reason. If you get angry, they will use your anger as a new reason for you to feel guilty. The loner, however, offers dead silence. You listen to the entire guilt trip, you wait for the person to finish, and then you say nothing. Or you say, "I hear you," and leave it at that. This lack of feedback is the final boss of social manipulation. It forces the manipulator to sit in the silence of their own bad behavior. Without your defense to hide behind, their manipulation is exposed in the harsh light of reality. They start to feel awkward, insecure, and eventually powerless. They realize that their social spells are not working on you. You aren't fighting them, you are simply refusing to be affected. This strategic non-response is the ultimate act of psychological sovereignty. It proves that you are the one who decides what energy is allowed to penetrate your personal space. You have realized that no is a complete sentence, but silence is an even more powerful one. You are the black hole for their drama, absorbing their guilt trips and turning them into nothingness before they can even touch your core. Loners are immune to guilt because they have mastered the art of the rational choice over the emotional reflex. Most guilt-based manipulation is designed to trigger a primitive reflex in the brain, the need to appease the tribe to avoid being abandoned. This is an evolutionary ghost that keeps people trapped in modern situations that don't serve them. The loner has upgraded their hardware. They have spent enough time alone to realize that the fear of abandonment is a paper tiger. They know that they can survive and thrive in their own company. Because they aren't afraid of the social void, they can look at a manipulator's request rationally. They ask themselves, does this align with my values? Is this a fair exchange? Is this person a net positive in my life? If the answer is no, the emotional guilt ping is dismissed as a system error. This clinical approach to social interaction is what makes people call loners robotic or unfeeling. But in reality, you are the only one who is feeling correctly. You are feeling your own truth instead of the induced emotions that others are trying to project onto you. You have broken the chain of command between the group's desires and your actions. You are the one who has realized that your emotional state is a sanctuary, not a public park where anyone can dump their guilt trash. In the final analysis, the loner's immunity to guilt is the ultimate expression of total responsibility. You have accepted that you are 100% responsible for your life, your choices, and your peace. And by doing so, you have also accepted that everyone else is 100% responsible for theirs. You refuse to theft someone else's growth by taking on their guilt. You recognize that when you allow yourself to be manipulated, you are enabling the manipulator to remain immature. Your no is a gift to them, a boundary that forces them to look inward for the approval they were trying to steal from you. By staying in your center and refusing the guilt tax, you are building a life on the bedrock of authenticity. You aren't breaking the world, you are just refusing to be broken by it. You have reached a level of dark psychological clarity where you can see the strings on the puppets all around you, and you are the only one who is untethered.
Don't fear the isolation that comes with this level of sovereignty. The exile of the unbothered loner is actually a coronation. You have crowned yourself with the stillness of the wise. Stay in your truth, stay in your silence, and remember, the world can only control you through your insecurities. If you have no need to be liked, you have no limit to your power. You are the master of the void, and in that space, you are finally, truly untouchable.